and we're going to bring this work study session to order. And during this work study session, we're going to talk about school consolidation, and that's going to be presented by Dr. Deborah Rumbaugh.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Nice to see you. We are going to give some updates, and as you know, we are using a standard template to provide these updates. And in this round, I did add a transportation slide, just because I know there's been some questions about transportation, so I wanted to be sure that we had the opportunity to discuss that. My clicker's not clicking. Thank you. So first slide this evening, as always, we want to start with our financial considerations and updates. So a lot of this you've seen before, but we did want to note for the board that there are incurred expenses that are beginning, and we had committed to report those out to you. So we have ordered, you can see there are about 2,000 boxes and packing tape. And you'll see later on in the slides that those have arrived.
Recording in
and they will be
progress.
Delivered to sites before spring break. And hopefully that will give folks time to be thoughtful around packing and kind of do that on their own timeline. So other than that, there are no new expenses to report, but we will certainly ensure that the board has those. So facility and operational, you can see here that we still are kind of leading with Liberty's administrator, being the one that's gonna really be in charge of classroom assignments. And so whatever programs or staff are in that building, he's gonna collaborate and be sure that folks are in a place where they feel comfortable. And again, you can see here that the packing boxes and tape have arrived at the district, and we will be delivering those. Facilities has also met since the last time we were together with a playground vendor, and we are waiting quotes from that vendor, which should arrive in a couple of weeks. That'll help us make a determination about what does the playground look like at Marysville Middle School, the new Liberty campus. Are we going to be purchasing? Are we going to be moving equipment, or likely a combination of those two things? And Greg wishes he was here. He's not allowed to. He had surgery, so he'll be back when he's available. So operational and transportation updates, lots of questions have emerged in the last week or so around transportation. And while we don't have an answer to every question now, we are collaborating this week to be able to answer all of the questions related to every program that might be beginning or ending in a new location as compared to current year. But it is not the district's intent, as you can see up there, to stop providing bus services. So I don't think it would be something the board would be interested in, to move in a direction where we stopped providing busing when we previously had. And so I'm working with our transportation director, Kim, who is exceptionally accommodating, which I'm grateful for. So we'll have more for you in the next update. And really what we're looking at is how do we develop a transportation plan that meets a couple of demands. One is cost effective, and just as important, meets the needs of our families and students whenever possible. So we will be providing not only the board, but the community with an update on that. Right, staffing and HR. So our Human Resources Department has worked with MEA in this case specifically for a target of mid-April to have staff in their new assignments. And those timelines flex. I think if you've ever worked according to a timeline, you can anticipate that that happens. Our commitment is to be sure that updates are provided if that timeline flexes one direction or another. And our approach or our tool for that will be our weekly updates with staff. This evening, you will notice that there is a RIF resolution on the board agenda. And in recent times across the state, that has become sort of a routine practice. It doesn't necessarily imply that there will be a reduction in force, but the board authorizes the superintendent to make that decision and to determine if there are going to be reductions in force, what does that look like, and then report back to the board in about middle to late April on what those reductions would be. And of course, we would try to balance any retirements and resignations against a need to RIF, because we would hope that attrition would take it. Communication updates, mentioned this last time we were together. We're trying to be responsive and agile, I guess is a good word, in the way that we communicate, what information gets out, and really how that lands on our staff and our families. And so sort of the big pieces of communication that have gone out since we were last here together is we have a 6th grade curriculum team that will begin planning this week. And that is going to be led through our 2 executive directors in teaching and learning, and they're going to work with a representative team to determine what exactly does curriculum look like in the elementary school next year. And that's both on the pedagogical side and then the logistic material side as well, in terms of some of the things we have aren't physical stuff that you can move from point A to point B. So those will be reports that you will start getting as well, as will our staff and families. I had the opportunity to meet on Friday with a representative group of our music teachers, and we had a really good initial meeting on what music will look like potentially next year for some of our elementary students. The first step in that is issuing a survey out to our elementary families to collect information on potential interest. We will be communicating that the survey is intended for us to just get a loose idea of interest. It doesn't mean that if you take the survey that you're committing to music, and it doesn't mean that if you miss the survey that you don't have the opportunity. We're just trying to gauge, are we looking at 20 students or are we looking at 220 students? And that just kind of will help us make decisions on what the programming will look like. And then, as you know, High Cap and Co-op locations for 25, 26 have been determined, and those will both be at the Liberty site. And that kind of harkens back to the first slide where Principal Hammond will be in charge of finding homes for all of those classrooms and all of those students on that campus. And then we're continuing to prioritize, as you can see here, the needs of impacted parties in our communication routines. So trying to be thoughtful of who needs information and what timeline that looks like.
May I ask a question?
Please, yes.
Oh, go for it. I just want to clarify, I think I've asked this question before, but just, is there going to be a general goal at Liberty to co-locate each of the different programs, High Cap, Liberty itself, and the co-op program, so that the folks in those programs are generally together? That be one of the objectives?
Yeah, that's going to be really a principal and school decision. The initial maps did have programs sort of in separate hallways, and that really was just a function of us being able to count classrooms and needing to make sure that we were able to accommodate. But I know that the process of having those decisions, making that decision, because that really is sort of, again, a pedagogical decision. Are we separating by program, or do we want all of our first and second graders together? They just aren't there yet.
But I do think it's important for that. Oh, one. Okay. I do think it's important for that information to keep being provided in public forums. I know you still have that weekly output as well as this, but all right. Thank you.
Okay, I will add that to our list.
One question about the music planning, and I'm curious about just, will the survey be sent out to like across all families, or are you targeting specifically like 5th, 6th grade?
We are looking at that 5th, 6th grade combination. The other thing that we wanted to do was to work with our principals on having the survey come from the school. That feels a little more personal. I think we're hopeful that we'll get more responses if it's coming from either the principal or the teachers themselves versus, you know, just a district communication.
And by 5th, 6th, do you mean 4th and 5th, who will be moving up to 5th, 6th?
Yes, rising 5th and 6th graders. Thank you.
Just moving down a little bit here. I had a question about our MMS families, and this may have already, and I just may have forgotten, but remind me when the rising 7th and 8th graders are going to be informed about which school they're going to attend if they're at MMS now, and when do they find out if they're at total or not?
Yeah, I don't know that we've pinned a time down on that. I think it would make sense to communicate that when we have that information. And so I'll add that to our list to talk about at our daily meetings.
Thank you.
I know that our schools have that information, but that's not helpful to families. Any questions? So our efforts around collaboration, this is a little bit of a repeat of some of the things that we've talked about. In addition to this would be librarians. I believe I'm meeting this week with some of our librarians to talk about what the movement of materials looks like between our middle schools and our respective elementary schools. And then just generally having a conversation about the needs and interests of our librarians. So that will be an important conversation. And then school visits are continuing. I've had the opportunity to be out to several of our schools. I'll have all of them visited by spring break. And it's been a real nice opportunity to kind of hear where people's minds and hearts are relative to this discussion. And I think the thing that stands out in that is really the deep care that our school staff have for their buildings and their colleagues and the children that they serve. And there's still sort of this loss around those configurations changing. So I think it's important to acknowledge that. And then lastly, I am participating in a listening session tomorrow night at Legacy with students and families to collect information from them, to listen about what their interests are in terms of what Legacy would look like next year. And it's not so much around what location, we're not going to be voting on where we're going to be, but it's more of what are sort of the non-negotiables that will keep Legacy what Legacy is and how meaningful it is. So looking forward to that conversation, and that happens tomorrow. All right, I think this is the last time you're going to see this table, but I wanted to be sure that we had the information. We were able to work with our elementary principals and determine what blocking model they were most interested in, potentially. And so you can see that we've got sort of the three different configurations there. I would point out that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Lori, but QCT is already participating in a combined block model. And so there was an interest for them not to have to deconstruct that and to continue with something that is working well. So that's why you see just one school up there. So we are looking forward to, again, still meeting almost weekly with our elementary and secondary principals to support them in their planning. Right, and then on the next slide, middle school updates. The lift is different, as you can imagine, at the middle school level. And one of the things that I have heard our middle school staff talk a lot about is kind of their feeling of loss and ownership around sixth grade. And so again, that's a positive thing, that our middle school sixth grade teachers have that care. These are the things that they have expressed as sort of things they want to be sure that are maintained in the Marysville School District as our sixth graders move to the elementary. So you can see we're talking about rigorous experiences, not losing that content area expertise, and then a lot of questions around curriculum and limited resources. And I think that's really a district-wide conversation, but in this particular instance, there's questions around the impact for sixth graders. That's why we've got our curriculum team meeting to do everything we can to address those concerns. Questions, suggestions?
I've got one around the elementary blocks.
Yes.
And I was just wondering, with the three different kind of models, how is that decided? Was that by principal? Was that by individual elementary schools? I was just kind of interested in the process of how they came up with that. And then I guess after you answer that, the next part would be, do we have in mind any way to, at the end of next year, compare how those two systems worked out to see which one is more, yeah, one's more effective than the other. So is that planning with that in place? So I'll let you.
Yeah, good question. So the work that I did with building administrators was determine what are the options. And those were the three options that you saw on the slide. And then principals took those options back to their building instructional leadership, their BILT groups. And they worked together to make a decision on which of those three seemed like it was the best fit for the building. And our elementary principals have asked that we schedule meetings next year, 25-26, to do the very thing that you are asking, which is where is this successful? Where is it not successful? Are there logistical pieces that are challenging or not? One of the things that we know and that we talked about is that there really isn't a perfect configuration, but there probably is a best fit for a building. And I think there's also a point of conversation around, is there in fact moving into 26, 27, one configuration that we might want to use district-wide? And so that's an open conversation to have. There's pros and cons to utilizing one programmatic model across the district or not.
Has there been any, discussion as with staff that is gonna be, reassigned or reallocated to this? Or if they have a preference as to, oh, I would, I guess there's not a difference if you're sixth grade, if they're both blocks are separated, so.
Common question, yes. MEA has brought that up, and we want folks to be where they want to be and where they're most comfortable. The timing is challenging because our current elementary staff and administrators wanted to get the work started, and we hope to have MEA members placed by mid-April. So the timelines just aren't matching in the way that we would like. But once that's known, I don't think there's any principle in our system that would say, you know, we don't want to hear from you, that they would welcome folks in. We mentioned, I think last time too, the hope to be able to have staff meetings at the end of the year, which isn't quite the same as planning. But folks being able to come together in their new building with their new partners and have those meetings to at least be sort of an informed consumer before they head into the school year. Any questions?
Less of a question, more of a comment, because I appreciate the conversations around sixth grade and some of the input from our middle school teachers. I know these were some of the things that came up as part of the conversation as we were thinking about this model. And I guess as part of that, I just, you know, when we think about making sure that we have rigorous experiences for all of our sixth graders across all of our elementary schools, same with resources, that we just are mindful of those costs, right? Because we obviously want to provide a really strong experience for our families and for our students. The other part of this exercise was we are saving a certain amount of money, so just that balance I think is important as we're thinking about this.
And I wonder if there's a way to sort of describe what those kind of guarantees are, particularly since, to your point, we're looking at revenue neutral guarantees for students. But I mean, I imagine if I were a sixth grade parent and I was at these presentations, I could have that question, well, what does this mean exactly? So we can do the work to kind of describe what those guarantees are around rigor and content expertise and curriculum across all of our schools, because that would be consistent regardless of the model.
Thank you.
Any more questions or comments from the board? Thank you very much, Dr. Deborah Rumbaugh. Presentation, and it's 5:50 and we're going to break, and at 6 o'clock we will begin our regular session.
Recording stopped.
Alrighty.
Recording in progress.
Good evening, everyone. It is 6 o'clock, March 17th, 2025. We're gonna go ahead and bring this regular session to order. And first on the agenda is the oath of office for Dr. Deborah Rumbaugh. Accomplish that. Bring you all up close and personal. All right. Repeat after me. I, Deborah Rumbaugh,
I, Deborah Rumbaugh,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and laws of the United States
and laws of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
and laws of the state of Washington,
and laws of the state of Washington,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially perform
and impartially perform
and discharge
and discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of Marysville School District
of Marysville School District
number 25
number 25
as superintendent interim
as superintendent interim
through June 30th,
through June 30th,
2026,
2026,
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability
and in accordance with the law.
and in accordance with the law.
All right, congratulations. And next, we normally do the flag salute, but we have a student named Ollie Phillips White, who's gonna perform the national anthem on his acoustic guitar. So if everybody could rise and remove their caps for the national anthem. Ollie, just so you know, our next board meeting is April 21st. Feel free to return. Thank you very much, Ollie. Really enjoyed it. We acknowledge the original inhabitants of this area, the Snohomish people, and their successors, the Tulalip tribes. Since time immemorial, they have hunted, fished, gathered, and taken care of these lands. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. We will strive to be honest about our past mistakes and bring about a future that includes their people, stories, and voices to form a more just and equitable society. All right. Do I have a motion for the approval of the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, motion passes. Superintendent's report.
Right, the only item on the superintendent's report is the consolidation update, and it looks like it's a little further down. Would you like me to do that now, or?
We can wait.
Okay.
It's fine.
For the record, I think we'll need a vote on the motion.
You're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Thank you, Director Davis. Do I have a vote on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. The agenda has been approved. And we're gonna skip past the superintendent's report. We're gonna go to the communications reports, staff, student, and community recognition. First, we're gonna recognize some students from 10th Street. And this is gonna be introduced by Vonnie Walker and looks like Ayana Lee.
Board and Superintendents, I'm excited to bring to you some amazing middle schoolers that are going to not only get a chance for you to hear how wonderful they are, but they're going to talk to you a little bit about what they're thinking too. So I'm excited to present them. This is Miss Alana Lee.
Good evening. I am going to turn this over to my amazing teachers who are going to present our students. I have Mr. D and also Ms. Turl that are going to present.
Good evening. So we, as a staff at 10th Street, chose some extraordinary students to present to you guys today. The list is very hard to choose from because every student is extraordinary. So for 6th grade, we chose, we want to highlight Nico Snyder. Nico is a standout student who embodies the qualities of an includer, always making sure his classmates feel welcomed and valued in class. His friendly nature allows him to connect with everyone, creating a positive and supportive environment. Nico is not only kind to his peers, but also a great help to his teachers, consistently assisting with setting up activities and ensuring that the class runs smoothly. He demonstrates the core values of being ready, responsible, and respectful in everything he does, setting an excellent example for those around him. His leadership and kindness make him truly a valuable member of the 10th Street community. So I'm going to invite Nico up here to say a couple words to you, and then we'll get to the other student recognition.
Hello, my name is Nico Snyder, and I'm a 6th grader at 10th Street. My experience at 10th Street was fun and challenging. I love the school and its teachers. Due to its small size, it's easier than other schools to get a relationship with each and every teacher. It's also easier to get help on problems or projects, and it makes the school feel safer. It was scary at first, having to switch classes and doing the transition from elementary school to middle school, but 10th Street was welcoming to each and every student. The community is also astonishing. All the teachers are helpful, the other students don't bully the 6th graders, and the 7th and 8th graders are quite nice. There has been no bullying that other students and I have seen. It's also fun that we can do band and art instead of just one or the other. Speaking of band, it was a real highlight to learn a new instrument in under a month. It was a real highlight of our 10th Street experience so far, for all of us. The band program is also very helpful. I was able to learn a new instrument in under a month in time for the concert due to the program. Thank you all for listening to my speech.
All right, yeah, it's a comedy show here, but I just wanted to also mention that Ms. Turl, where she at? Right there, is a former Marysville student, my student teacher, and now she's here to be part of our community, so I just wanted to say. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Olivia here. And in 25 years, I don't know that I've seen someone with such heart. I get to see her 3 hours a day. I'm her social studies, her English, and her art teacher. And in all of those classes, in all those roles, she takes time out of her study time to help others that need it. Not just that best friend that she sits next to most of the time, who even came here today, but all kids in the class, any kids, some who may not want to even want the help, but they need it. And she's that person that goes and finds them and is willing to help. Her classmates say that she is, quote, kind to everyone, kind, caring, and a good friend, and that she helps kids learn a lot in class. So I didn't prepare a speech, so she's really nervous.
Hi, my name's Olivia, and I'm also a 10th Street student. I believe that 10th Street is a good school because because it's more compact, it has more help than other schools do. It's easier to find help from 10th Street because most of the teachers are ready with only very few with only 2 classes in my program. I believe that 3 teachers is helpful because you get more help and you get to know the teachers more and you get more attention about what you really need to do in class. And you get to know more of the teachers and the class rules and routines. And we get to focus more on projects and things we need to do to succeed. I'm in the choir program, and I believe my choir teacher is great because she helps us prepare. And since she is also one of my 3 teachers, she is more helpful than having to see a couple hundred kids a day.
Seventh grader that we would like to recognize today is Jackson Slater. Jackson is a compassionate and dedicated student who genuinely cares about the well-being of his classmates. He goes out of his way to ensure that everyone feels included, always making sure no one is left without a partner and willingly stepping in to support those who may feel left out. While he sometimes puts unnecessary pressure on himself, his perseverance and dedication to his classwork is truly admirable. Jackson leads by example, consistently demonstrating a strong work ethic and a willingness to lend a helping hand whenever needed. His kindness, leadership, and determination make him a true asset at 10th Street. I'm going to invite Jackson up.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jackson Slater. I'm a 7th grader at 10th Street School. Before we start today, I just want to say thank you to everyone who has come to this meeting, as I'm anxious to share my experience at 10th Street with you. I'm going to start a little bit about a background about myself. During elementary school, I was teased and pushed around for the way I was. It was a really bad experience for me just because this led to having a bad relationship with teachers and friends. This was also a daily thing that was happening, and it was just something that was just not ending. During the summer, my parents decided to have me at 10th Street. When I first heard this, I thought I was just going to get pushed around and teased even more. But after a few weeks of being there, I was thinking, oh my gosh, this school is so freaking awesome. Ever since then, I have enjoyed almost every bit of the experience I've had. The good thing about the school is that it actually provides a very comfortable place to make friends and learn things. Also, the teachers are straight up incredible for what they do. I really appreciate them for what they've done for me and the school. Another good thing that I like about the school is that you have those teachers all 3 years that you're there, which creates a very good bond between you and them. Anyway, that's all I have to say to you today. Before I stop, I just want to give a big round of applause to what these amazing people have done for me. your time. Enjoy the rest of your day.
The eighth grader that we would like to recognize is Levi Kreutz. Levi is a remarkable student with the kindest heart, known for being one of the most encouraging and supportive individuals at 10th Street. His dedication to his studies is unmatched, consistently putting in the effort to succeed while uplifting those around him. Beyond the classroom, Levi has been an integral part of the school community, contributing greatly to the mock trial program and the band program in Blue Jazz, and participates in field trips and other school events. His willingness to help and his positive presence make him a lasting impact on both his peers and teachers, making him a true role model within the school. So here's Levi.
10th Street is an amazing school. It has helped me do so many things that I would have never done if I had not gone to 10th Street. 10th Street has an outstanding band program, and I chose to play the trombone. And my band teacher has helped me become really good at it. And I even went to honor grade. 10th Street also has an amazing mock trial program. I have done mock trial for 2 years now, and my history teacher has helped us win state. He also does legislative, which is where we make bills and pass them, which has been so helpful in learning about our country and the laws it has. My art teacher has also helped me excel in art. I've improved a lot, and I'm part of an independent study group that does harder art projects. So we can do stuff that matches our grade level. And in English and math, I do higher grade level, like 9th grade level stuff, so I can get a credit for high school, and it has been so helpful in preparing for the future. Science has been so much fun, and I've learned so many awesome things. And PE has been a great place to get exercise and learn about amazing fun stuff. I also do jazz band, which has been really fun and helps me get better at the trombone.
Can we give my students one more round of applause? They did amazing. So tonight was lifting with kindness, leading with kindness, lifting others up. So these are just 4 of the many brilliant students that we have at 10th Street, and I'm just so thankful that they were able to come here and be recognized and also share a little bit about their story.
Parents can come on up too, please. Family members,
Grandparents,
parents.
come on.
Yep.
Calling you out.
How did you see this big? Oh my gosh, I know, I saw that name, I'm like, oh.
That's fine. And now, we're good.
So far, so good. Right. 1, 2, 3. I was done? Oh, okay. Thank you, family.
Really does not get any better than that. But we're not done yet. We still have some students to recognize. We're gonna jump into the Optimus March Students of the Month. This is gonna be presented by Ursula Spidell.
Hi, my name is Ursula Spidel, and I'm here to represent or to recognize the Students of the Month for MPHS. Asia Johnson and Carlos Solario. If you could please join me. So today I have the privilege of recognizing both Asia and Carlos. Asia attends, they both attend the MPHS. Asia is also part-time Running Start student. She currently serves as the ASB president and is the founder of the MPHS Key Club Kiwanis Empowered Youth Program. Additionally, she holds the position of secretary of the MPHS Black Student Union and is a member of the MPHS Connection Crew. Throughout her involvement in these organizations, Asia has made a significant contribution to the community. She has coordinated cleanups and organized events for various good causes. One notable event was the teddy bear toss, where during the basketball games, the audience would throw stuffed bears onto the court where when the team scored, these bears were then donated to the fire department to be given to children experiencing traumatic events. Asia also enjoys being part of the track team. Her future educational plans include completing her AA degree at Everett Community College, pursuing a degree in psychology, and eventually attending law school. Asia would like to be remembered in her high school years for her self-growth. Throughout her high school years, Asia has grown immensely, finding her voice and achieving her personal growth. So if you can please join me in recognizing Asia.
Well, I have with me my mom, my brother, and my dad.
Carlos is our next student of the month. He also attends MPHS and is a dedicated member of the NJROTC. He has impressively completed over 150 hours of community service with a significant portion of his time dedicated to supporting the local community food bank through volunteer hours. Carlos has taken on a leadership role within the NJROTC, coordinating sports assembly and training others on the rules of participation for the Arch of Sports during military celebrations. His extracurricular activities are diverse and include competing on the MPJV wrestling team, participating with the color guard, competing with the armed drill team, and holding a part-time job at Pizza Hut. Early in his high school years, Carlos didn't always feel heard or recognized by his peers. He hopes to be remembered for acknowledging and caring about everyone during his high school years. Carlos plans to complete his four-year degree through the ROTC program, be commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Army, and pursue a degree in mechanical engineering. Will you please join me in congratulations?
I would like to recognize my lovely parents, my mom and dad, for there.
I guess we'll be getting a picture,
That's right.
right? Okay. Your parents want to come up also?
That'd be great. That's what I missed you last time. Thanks. Okay, looking good, except Director Michael, can't quite see you. Okay. 1, 2, 3, I'm gonna do one more. Must be St. Patrick's Day or something. Let's see. Thank you so much.
Thought about trying to do it one more time, but said I wouldn't. All right. We're gonna move on to staff, student, or board reports. The first report is the school consolidation update presented by Superintendent Rumbaugh.
All right, thank you. Good evening. Thank you to the board and those that are attending. We are going to walk through the same consolidation report that we looked at during our study session. I want to start with fiscal considerations and updates for you. You've seen this information before, but we have budgeted an estimated $350,000 of one-time costs associated with retrofitting, adjusting Marysville Middle School to accommodate elementary students. First step in that you can see in terms of incurred expenses are the easy stuff, boxes and tape. Those have been purchased and are heading out to respective buildings so that staff have plenty of time to think about when they would like to begin packing. And then lastly, you can see the costs associated with playground, building improvements, and then general moving funds, which also include compensation per our labor agreements. Facility and operations, we know that we have a lot of students that are going to be heading from Liberty to Marysville Middle School as the new location for Liberty Elementary. And the building administrator will be working with his staff to make decisions on what staff are located where across the building. So that's something that we really want to empower our building principal to be able to do. You can see there that we have packing boxes that have arrived at the district, and those will be delivered before spring break. And then lastly, new update this month is that we have met with vendors related to playground equipment. So getting quotes on various scenarios for ensuring that we have appropriate playground equipment at the New Liberty. So wanted to touch on transportation this evening. There's been a lot of questions the last couple of weeks related to transportation, and that sort of falls under operational. It is not the district's intent to stop busing services for students that already receive busing services, even if their location is changed from sort of point A to point B. And that includes before and after school care. So we are in the process of working with the transportation department to develop a plan to make sure that we're both responsible with costs and meet the needs of our families wherever those needs may lie. So the board can expect an update on that and communication to our broader community in the coming weeks. Grateful for our transportation team. They're exceptionally accommodating and grateful for their work to serve students. In terms of staffing and the work with human resources, and in particular, focusing on MEA, we do have other bargaining groups that we're working with, but this update is specific to our certificated staff. We believe that we have a good target date of mid-April to know where our certificated staff will be located for the 25-26 school year. If that target is adjusted, we will certainly update in our weekly communications, and that would include an update to the board. Second item on this list is the board does have a RIF, or a reduction in force resolution, on the board report today. That is becoming more a matter of practice for boards and school districts to have that in place should there be a requirement to reduce in staff due to structuring, enrollment status, or just an overall financial landscape. This is a two-step process, so this evening the board will have a discussion and potentially approve a RIF resolution that directs the superintendent and team to follow up with the number of reductions, if necessary, sort of by job configuration in the future. And our hope is that through attrition, that's retirement and resignation, that we would not have to reduce staff. Communication updates, working weekly to deliver on our promise to communicate with our staff and our families and our administrators in a way that is useful for them, and that they can count on those communications being, having the best information for them to sort of move through their weeks. The big items that we've been communicating in the last couple of weeks are listed there. We have a sixth grade curriculum planning team that's going to meet starting this week and into the coming weeks to really tackle the question of what will sixth grade look like in terms of curriculum out at our elementary schools. Met last week with a representative team from our music staff to be thinking about what is music going to look like for our elementary students, our sixth graders. And then finalizing the location for high cap and co-op being at the new Liberty campus for the 25-26 school year. And that links back to an earlier slide where we talked about the building principal will be in charge of sort of assigning where those students and staff are located. Board asked for some more information on the details of that as that comes forward, so we will be getting that to you. And then lastly, really trying to prioritize the need of impacted parties in these communication routines and listening to the questions that staff have over the course of the week to try to be responsive in that communication. In terms of collaboration, some of these were already mentioned. We've got our 3 subcommittees up and going. I'll be meeting with librarians this week to have conversations about what it looks like to be organizing and potentially moving and shuffling resources from libraries. And then lastly, there will be a listening session tomorrow evening. I think we have a board member or 2 that will be joining us there to listen to legacy students and families in terms of what it is that we want to preserve about legacy that keeps legacy for the coming school year, knowing that those students and staff and families will be at a new location. So there will be a report on how that goes tomorrow night, and that's at 6 p.m. This has been shared a couple times, so this will probably be the last time that we see this, but elementary schools are finalizing what type of blocking they are going to be participating in the coming school year. I would say there's always an opportunity that as we get staff assigned that these could adjust, but I'd say we're well beyond the 80% mark in terms of how buildings feel in terms of making a selection there. We talked in our study session about QCT. And QCT, you'll notice, is the only building that has selected a combined block, so sort of a 5th, 6th cohort. And that is because they already have that model and they wanted to be able to retain that as unique to that building. And our other 9 schools have chosen different formulas for blocking. I had some good conversations with middle school staff really over the last month and a half or so, and I wanted to just highlight for the board and the community 3 things that really have risen to the top when I hear our middle school staff talk about how they feel and what they think about 6th graders transitioning to the middle school. So you can see those 3 last bullet points there. There's a lot of interest and energy and investment in our 6th graders having rigorous academic experiences at the elementary level, and students not losing content area expertise that they have in the 6th grade level at the middle school model. What does that look like? How do we reserve that or preserve that at the elementary school? And then lastly, a lot of conversations around what does 6th grade curriculum look like given that we are in a space of limited resources. So we have a subcommittee that will help us be able to determine what that looks like. And these areas are areas that the board will get continued updates as well as the community. Any questions or discussion at this point?
Any further questions from the board? Steve, right? Do appreciate, we did go over the slide in a little greater detail earlier at 5:30 during our work study. And I do encourage community members to attend those if you can. It's a lot of good information and questions that come with it. And but if you can't make it, I believe we record those sessions and post them afterwards. So if you wanted to, you could look back on it. All right, we're going to move on to upcoming events presented by Jody Runyon, Director of Communications.
Good evening, Superintendent Rumbaugh, Board of Directors, Josiah, welcome. We're going to go over some upcoming events for March. We're around the corner. We're halfway through March. And I brought a flyer. I'm going to hold it up for the camera and the audience. just to remind everybody, it's time to march into kindergarten. So what that means is kindergarten registration is open online. Packets can also be retrieved at neighborhood schools or right here at the district office. So it can be done electronically or through a paper packet. Those are accepted either way. So please, please, please help spread the word that it is time to register for kindergarten. We always encourage early registration, and that's a win-win both for our families because they get on mailing lists, they start being part of our school district community and schools, and then also we can have a really good idea of how many new young learners are coming into our district. So really exciting stuff coming up. So I want to point out a few things. March is Music in the Schools Month. It's been really exciting that we've had some music performances at each of our board meetings, so that kind of showcases that a little bit. Rounding out the month, we've got some pretty big meetings coming up. So the co-op is holding their kindergarten information night. That's a school event that's coming up on the 20th. And then we've got our budget advisory committee coming up on the 20th as well. That's our third budget advisory committee. A week from then, we have more music. 10th Street Middle School Jazz Band. It's called the Red Hot Jazz Concert. And there's an Indian Educators Night. That's also on the 27th, and that is for our teachers or any district employees. Multicultural Family Night is also coming up. That's going to be hosted at MPHS, Marysville Pilchuck High School, but it is open to all families district-wide, and that's on the 27th. So lots of things coming up. And also in April, I just want to bring some awareness because it will come so quickly. April is Autism Awareness Month, School Libraries Month, and Military Child Month. And we serve around 200 military children in our school district system. So we always like to take an opportunity to honor our military children and families. I won't read everything else off, but I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're gonna move into the hearing of business of visitors. So just a little bit of housekeeping. There's a timer to my left. I think that's the only screen it's on. So every individual who comes up to speak gets 3 minutes to speak. They can combine their time with one other person. That person needs to be present for a total of 6 minutes. When that timer turns yellow, that normally means you've got 30 seconds left. And when it flashes red, that means your time's up. And if that's the case, if you can wrap up your comment within 15-20 seconds, please do so. We just want to be respectful for the people behind you. And then also when you come up to the mic, if you could just state whether you're a Marysville resident, you're a parent of a Marysville student, you're a business owner in Marysville, how you're linked to Marysville, that would be great. And first up on my list, I've got Nancy Harvey.
How can I be first when I put my name in the third box so other people would
People
go
went
ahead of me?
below you. They didn't want to take you up on that.
Oh, nobody cooperated. Oh dear, and I don't even have, is this on? Okay, I don't even have prepared remarks for tonight. My name is Nancy Harvey. I am the second of 4 generations of Marysville High School graduates. I'm a volunteer, 15 years straight here in the district, the last 9 at Totem Middle School. I didn't want to go first because I thought somebody else would do a much better job. I'm here to ask you to keep Lisa Radford as principal at Totem Middle School. There are a lot of changes that are happening in the district because we're trying to save money and consolidate schools. When we can keep things the same, I think we need to do that, especially when things are going well. I've been at Totem for 9 years. It hasn't always had the family feel, but that is something that has grown over time. Lisa stepped in when Carrie Lindsay moved up to Marysville Getchell at the beginning of this school year. And Lisa's been with us as an assistant principal for quite a while. She knows the families, she makes students feel welcome, and she has continued building that family at Totem. A place where teachers step in and give up their planning time to take over other teachers' classes because a sub could not be found. And they do it willingly. They're collaborative. They work together at grade levels and for individual students. Totem is an amazing place. At the beginning of the school year, a CTE class for cooking was getting started. And Lisa and the teacher actually got together when funding couldn't be found to replace some appliances, and actually reached out to the community and got, I believe it was $1,000 to purchase those appliances, refrigerator, dishwashers, and got the program going. Lisa cares very much about our staff and our students, and she works hard to make everybody feel included. And that's where I'm going to end. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next up, we have Lisa Matthews. Hello, Lisa.
And Kyla is giving me her 3.
Kyla's giving you 3, okay?
Hello, members of the board and Superintendent Dr. Rumbaugh. My name is Lisa Matthews. I'm the Secretary of Cascade Elementary School PTA, and I have been active in the Special Education Parent Advisory Committee for the last 3 school years. As the parent of 5 special education students within this district, I have 1 at Cascade, 3 at Totem this year, and 1 at Legacy High School. I'm speaking here tonight for 2 reasons. The first is to advocate for retaining Lisa Radford at Totem Middle School. And the second is to ask that Legacy High School not be placed at Totem. This is an unpopular opinion among Legacy families, but I have a reason. Lisa Radford has continued to create a level of trust and cooperation with the Totem Middle School community of staff, students, and families over the 7 years she has been at Totem Middle School, as dean, as assistant principal, and this year as the principal. She works with her staff and parents in the best interests of her students. She not only shows up to IEP meetings, but participates in them to help solve problems for her students. She can be found on campus, helping students, covering for absent teachers when there are no substitutes available, and is willing to meet with families. There have been numerous times I've gone into the office and found her talking to another family. Numerous times I've walked in and said, hey, I got an issue, and she finds the time to talk to families. She has a positive relationship with her students and staff and parents, as evidenced by the people here to speak on her behalf tonight. And I think there's quite a few of us, right? If Lisa Radford is transferred from Totem Middle School, it will be our 3rd principal in as many years. At a time when there's so much change within the district itself. Our students deserve to retain some consistency at Totem. I am personally afraid of what will happen to the staff, students, families, and programs if Lisa Radford is transferred from Totem Middle School and replaced by someone that has no idea how Totem is best served. As for my second reason for speaking here this evening, I would like to ask that Legacy High School not be moved to Totem Middle School. And I say this for a couple of reasons. Totem currently has no less than 5 successful programs running out of it. Currently, they have Totem Middle School, which has the most successful special education department among middle schools in our district. It has the Open Doors program run out of it. Schoolhouse Cafe is run out of it. The Maritime program, both the middle school and high school portions, are at Totem. And also IEAS. If you're unaware of what that program is the program that allows for students who have been suspended or expelled that are on IEPs to continue getting their services in accordance with federal law. Legacy is currently located in a place that is relatively isolated. It's about 1.5 miles from anything in any direction. If Legacy were moved to Totem, there is a Taco Bell across the street. There is Comfort Park less than 3 blocks away. Making the possibilities for the high schoolers to ditch classes higher. This will set an example we don't want for our middle schoolers. Finally, having a complete high school placed on the campus of an established, well-running middle school seems like a recipe for an increase in HIB violations and lawsuits that we do not want, nor can we afford as a district. The idea of an 18-year-old having access to possibly bullying a 12-year-old, the average age of your 7th grader, and 18 being the average age of your senior, does not sound like a good idea to me. I want to thank you for your time and your consideration. I hope you take the time to actually consider what I've said. And I hope we retain Lisa Radford as principal at Totem Middle School. And I hope we don't place Totem at Legacy. Sorry. I hope we don't place Legacy at Totem. Oh, tired. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up on my list, we have Joanna Van Dam.
Dear members of the Marysville School Board, my name is Johanna Van Dam and I work at Totem Middle School. I'm a University of Washington graduate in American Indian Studies, a tribal member, and a Master of Public Health student focusing on Native health and education. At Totem, I help students strengthen their math skills and reach grade level proficiency. In my time here, I have seen how strong, compassionate leadership transforms student lives, and that leadership is what Lisa Radford has provided. Ms. Radford has built a school where students feel safe, supported, and valued. She fosters real connections with students, families, and staff, connections that go beyond the classroom. She listens, advocates, and ensures that every student has an opportunity to succeed. Her leadership is especially critical for our Native and diverse student populations who have historically been left behind in education. Students know and respect Lisa Radford because she respects them. She is a trusted presence who provides guidance, encouragement, and accountability. In Native communities, we value leadership that uplifts our young people and helps them realize their full potential. Removing Ms. Radford would disrupt the stability and progress she has built and send the wrong message to our students and staff. Leadership changes have lasting effects. Under Ms. Radford's leadership, Totem has become a place of stability and belonging, something we cannot afford to lose. I urge you to support her continued leadership and allow her to keep making a difference in our students' lives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up on my list, I have Doug, last name starts with a K. say it for me when you get up to the microphone. I have it in my head, I want to see.
My name is Doug Corrales. I'm a teacher at Totem. Actually, my students call me Mr. K for that reason. I'm also an MEA rep for Totem Middle School, and I have a statement I'd like to read on behalf of the staff. Good evening. I'm here on behalf of Totem Middle School staff to advocate for Lisa Radford to remain as our principal for the 2025-26 school year. If she's removed, this will mark our third principal in 3 years, creating yet another disruption in a school community that urgently needs stability and consistent leadership. Totem serves a diverse student population, many of whom have experienced significant challenges. Ms. Radford's leadership has fostered a culture of trust, collaboration, and positive momentum, something we simply cannot afford to lose. Her ability to support staff, engage families, and create a safe and structured environment for students has been invaluable. We understand that district-wide staffing decisions involve many factors, but we respectfully ask you to consider the impact on our school. Stability matters, leadership matters, and Lisa Radford has made a difference. On behalf of Totem Middle School, I urge you to allow her to continue the work she started. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. Next on my list, I have Courtney Shipley.
I'm donating my time to Marianne Bowe.
Okay, 6 minutes. 6 minutes for Marianne Powell.
Top of the evening and happy St. Patrick's Day. I am Marianne Polly. I'm a CTE teacher at Legacy High School. I would like to welcome the new superintendent to Marysville and a special thank you to the school board who has been here to listen to our concerns with Legacy High School relocation. The school board's or the school consolidation website stated the following for Legacy. Relocate Legacy High School to a different campus, maintaining its program and status as a school within a school. This statement hits particularly hard because currently our program is not a school within a school. Legacy is a choice, comprehensive, small high school that caters to students that need a small learning environment. This type of personalized instruction has been known to our community since 1988 in some form of alternative education or small choice school. 2 of my own children graduated from such programs due to the loss of their mother. These are my stepchildren. Going back to a large comprehensive high school with a gap in attendance was too much. They felt that people like students and staff had no idea what type of trauma they were dealing with. Luckily, both were able to graduate because of this option school with a smaller learning environment. My other daughter, in her sophomore year, missed a month of school due to an H. pylori virus and wasn't able to keep food down. And she was able to communicate with her teacher to make up the work. However, she was an exceptional student and was able to advocate for herself. Not all students can do this. There isn't anyone in this community who is not just one traumatic event away from needing an environment like Legacy High School. In my 27 years of teaching, I have seen small personalized instruction work for students who have learning disabilities, who are neurodivergent, who have lost a parent, a family member, a sibling, and for students going through health issues such as cancer or mental health problems. The Marysville community has embraced a school like Legacy for over 35 years because of our successes. We have had our own building and learning community since 1988. It started in a warehouse, then Marysville built a small alternative high school, and then we were promised an even bigger place for us to grow at our current location. This location was deemed perfect for us as we could remain small and gain a drama stage and a gym. We thought, great, more opportunities for kids, and we went along with the move. However, What the district is failing to tell the community is the plan for Legacy is not just relocation to an equivalent space, but a complete reshaping and retooling of a successful program. Legacy is being moved to either a row of classrooms outdoors at Totem, or one floor or maybe a couple of classrooms in one building at Getchell. We will no longer be our own school, but a school within a school. A format that has not been successfully implemented in any other alternative program in this area. This is a major change, and we have no model for success. We are not simply being relocated. Legacy staff is also being reduced by a third. We will not be able to offer the same program due to lack of staff. Please consider being honest. Our students will be moved to drastically different space, and they will not have ownership or connection to this space. We, as the remaining staff, will do our best to build back Legacy's learning community wherever we land. This will be my 5th time for these type of students. But our staff, parents, and students were told that Legacy would remain the same, only to be relocated to a new space. This is not true. Is this the reality that Marysville community needs and wants for its most vulnerable high school population? All students are one traumatic event away from needing Legacy in order to graduate. Legacy High School needs to remain its own independent school with our staff and programs intact. A reminder, tomorrow at Legacy High School at 6 p.m., there will be a listening session to discuss the future of Legacy. I urge all parents in this community to attend. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, next up on my list, I have Harvey Youngblood.
Harvey Youngblood, and I'm a freshman at Legacy High School. From experience, going to Totem and many other districts did not provide me the support I need. As a person who has needed much support, I've done really well at Legacy. I've gotten my grades up to like all A's. I've been doing really good. And due to that, I testify against this move of Legacy High School. The school district has said the move will not change anything, but in my personal opinion and of many students, that is false. Legacy has been seen as a safe haven for those who need makeup credits, who need extra help, or struggle with the amount of people in schools. If we move, we might leave the extra credit system, which is 8 credits rather than 4, that students need to graduate, leaving students in the dark who need help, and stopping support for students that are either gender nonconforming or in some sort of way, losing the bathrooms, losing clubs, losing teachers who are dear to us, unsure who, because that's not allowed to be shared with us, and students who live deeper in the res or who cannot catch buses, and makes the location impossible to reach for some, as well placing students in a place that they may have moved to Legacy to escape, such as Totem. Shoving students into a box full of kids that provides no support for those of difference. Legacy is proposed to help greatly dishonored. The students' Legacy is proposed to help will be greatly dishonored by this choice. And I came here today to ask you to reconsider. That's all I wrote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Last on my list, I have Riley Wade. So Riley.
Sorry. My name is Riley. I'm a freshman that also goes to Legacy High School. And it's like your time. Okay. First of all,
when I started going to Legacy, I think the first thing I noticed when I started going was like how supportive the school system actually was and the environment in general, and how like it's not too big, but it's also not too small, and it provides a really good learning environment, especially with the programs and CTE classes that they provide. It helps with students who need to get more credits if they're missing any, and the teachers, it's easy to build a good connection with the teachers at the schools. Well, school itself, because of how small it is easier to get to know your peers. And I have not had any issues with the school whatsoever ever since I started going. And the reason I bring this up is because of the moving to either Totem or Getchell. It's kind of going with what Ms. Polly said. If we move to Totem, I don't really believe it will be that good because I went there last year and I had a terrible experience going there when I was there. It was not as, what's the word for it? Oh, sorry. It wasn't as, we didn't. Okay, it wasn't as easy to get along with the peers and teachers because of how big the school was. There was constantly issues with people skipping their classes and also of fights. I was in one of them with a peer. I'm not going to go further into that. I'm just gonna leave it at that. But just overall, I think if we move to Totem, due to the Taco Bell that's literally like across the street from it, I think it would be a bad idea. And because students skipping classes and the programs that are already being provided, and I think that it would lead to an even bigger issue if they keep the kids that are already in the school, because of how big it is and little time to get to each class. And that's basically it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody who came up to speak. It's going to conclude our hearing of business of visitors. And we're going to move on to the approval of minutes. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the work state regular session minutes of March 3rd, 2025.
Got a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We're gonna move on to the consent agenda. I have a motion for the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion? I do have the gifts to the district that I'll read off here. So contributor, we have Down to Earth Community Gardens, who gifted to Allen Creek Elementary. The items that were gifted were agricultural items in the amount of $1,000. And the purpose was materials for the creation of bed gardens at Allen Creek. Next, we have Marysville High School's Drama Club Booster Club. Gift to Marysville School District. It's a monetary gift in the amount of $600 to purchase dinner for cast and crew of the Drama Club. Paul Magnus gifted to Marysville Pilchuck High School monetary gift in the amount of $400, and this is a donation towards the MPHS food drive. And Marysville Co-op gifted to Allen Creek agricultural items, materials for the creation of bed gardens at Allen Creek in the amount of $150, totaling $2,150. So thank you to all the contributors who donated their time, money, and resources to the district. Really appreciate it. Or anything else on the consent agenda on the board? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. All right, we're gonna get into some board action here. First up on the list, Snohomish County Student Support Advocate Program. This is gonna be presented by Sandra Madrigal, Interim Director of SPED Elementary Education.
Good evening, Dr. Rumba and Board of Directors. So I am providing today, follow-up from the last time. This is an action report. This is regarding the Student Support Advocate Program. Background information is I would like to propose to continue our partnership and contract with Snohomish County Human Services, which allows us to continue to have 2 student support advocates at both MGHS and MPHS for the remainder of the 2025 school year. There is no budgetary impact. And this program aligns with our strategic plan with number 1, relationships, so the development of intentional partnerships and relationships to support student learning. And 3, teaching and learning, aligning curriculum, instruction, and assessment to engage, inspire, and prepare each student towards their preferred future. The strategic plans and goals that this aligns with is 1.3, our relationships contribute resources that help grow and promote healthy working relationships with students, staff, and community. And 3.4, our district builds multi-tiered systems of support that meet students' health and well-being needs. My recommendation is to approve the contract and Snohomish County Human Services to have 2 student support advocates at both MG and MP for the remainder of the 2025 school year. Proposed motion, I move to approve the contract BH-25-15-18-050 with Snohomish County Human Services, which allows us to continue to have 2 student support advocates at both MG and MP for the rest of the year.
All right, thank you very much. Do I have a motion from the board?
I move to approve contract BH 25-15-18-050 with Snohomish County Human Services, which allows us to continue to have 2 student support advocates at both MGHS and MPHS for the remainder of the 2025 school year.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Got a question? 2 student support advocates at both MPHS and PHS, so 4 total, not 1 for each, or is that 2 total?
1 for each.
1 for each.
2 total.
A question, just a comment. I appreciate the partnership.
Yeah, it's a great partnership that we have with them. Yeah.
Thanks for helping to coordinate that.
Yes.
And bringing those resources to our kids.
Absolutely.
Any other questions from board members? Student rep, do you have any questions? Do you have an advisory vote? Yes, I am, Doug. Pro, thank you very much. All right, if there's no further discussion from the board, all those in favor? Aye. All right, motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next up, new course proposals for the 2025-2026 school year. This is going to be presented by not Melissa Van Zanten, I'm guessing.
That is correct.
Okay.
Good evening, Superintendent, Board of Directors. I am here presenting on behalf of Ms. Van Zanten. She's not with us this evening. This is a follow-up to an informational proposal, and also you had a presentation from this group in the past. So we would like to propose that we adopt the new CTE course, the Tulalip Bay Fire Academy Cadet Program, starting for the 25-26 school year. Currently, this is a pilot program. That's where you heard of it. I'm going to do a little talking about it, and then I'm just going to ask you to get to work here. But the Fire Service Training Program is a unique offering for students in various careers within the Emergency and Fire Management Services Program of Study, which is found within the Law, Public Safety, Corrections, and Security Pathways of CTE. Located at various Tulalip Marysville Fire and Rescue stations and taught by professional firefighters, this program offers a combination of guest speakers, presentations, and hands-on experiences, including the opportunity to experience live firefighting conditions with the Tulalip Bay firefighters. So I am asking for you to, let me get to my recommendation, I'm asking you to approve the 25-26 new course proposal for the adoption of the Tulalip Bay Fire Academy Cadet Program.
Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the 2025-2026 new course proposal to adopt the Toledo Bay Fire Academy Cadet Program.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion from the board?
I just happened, last night I spent the evening celebrating with my daughter who was promoted as, I think, the second female fire captain in Marysville Fire District. And so, talking to all her friends and colleagues that were there, without a doubt, they said that they wish they would have had access to something like this when they were in high school. And so I think it's a needed program. It's a great career for people, and I think it's something we should support.
I do have one question. It has both, yes, a budgetary impact, but then it says CTE will cover the cost of this program. Is it coming out of, it is part of the budget, but it's coming out of a separate part of the budget? Is that what that means?
That is correct, out of CTE funding, separate funding stream.
Primarily grant funded, correct? CP.
Correct.
Anything else from the board? Student rep? What is your advisory vote? And pro, thank you very much. There's no further discussion from the board. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. All right, next up, new job description, SPED position, BCBA. This is presented by Lori Taylor, Executive Director of Human Resources. Hello, Lori.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Superintendent Brombaugh. It is very important that the certificated behavioral analyst be approved. At the last meeting, I was asked how many would be needed. I was advised last week that it will be up to 3 by the time school starts in the fall. And the number of students with the complex behavioral issues is growing. And in order to effectively support their educational growth and success, this position is needed in order to reduce reliance on agency staff and improve consistency of support across the district. This job description, creation of it will allow the district to recruit and hire qualified candidates. I recommend approval of this job description.
Thank you very much. Do you have a motion?
I move to approve the new SPED job description for the board certified behavior analyst, BCBA.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion from the board?
I just appreciate the information that you brought back to us in the conversation we had when it was brought as an informational item. I know this has just been an area where I think we've all been sensitive to that the district is spending a lot of resources using agency staff. So if we can find a way to provide some of these services in-house and serve our kids and also be preserve our finances, I think it's, I really appreciate the look around this.
Very much. Any other discussion from the board?
Read my notes.
Student rep? You have an advisory vote?
Yes, I am.
Pro. Thank you very much. There's no further discussion from the board. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. And you're staying up there, aren't you? Next up, we have resolution number 2025-04, reduced educational program / reduction in force, presented by Lori Taylor.
The district continues to operate under binding conditions and fiscal oversight. From the Office of the Washington Superintendent of Schools or of Public Instruction, we have operated this year under strict expenditure controls, taken necessary steps to meet the requirements of the binding conditions. And despite these efforts, The review of estimated revenue and expenditures, projected student enrollment has resulted in a determination that the district expects to receive insufficient funding from federal, state, and local funding sources to maintain its current education program and services. Reductions in the number of certificated and classified staff may be required to meet the requirements of the binding conditions and enhance financial oversight. I recommend adoption of resolution number 2025-04.
Thank you very much. Who wants to take on the paragraph of a motion?
I move to adopt resolution number 2025-04, which provides official notification of the possibility that reductions of certificated and classified positions may be required, and requests the superintendent to develop a reduced educational program plan and any staff reduction should such a reduction be required.
Second.
Thank you very much. Do we have any discussion from the board?
I know these are always tough, having been on several RIF lists and waiting for those to come out. That's always a very tense time for teachers. And so I think being transparent and letting people know that this is something that may happen relatively early in the year, as opposed to like late May or June, I think is a positive thing. Although we hope not to lose anybody, it's we also have to be realistic. So we appreciate it.
I think we have not done reduction in forces well over the last few years here at MSD. And I think this step, not saying that we're ripping yet, but notifying that that's a possibility is a step in the right direction. So I appreciate bringing that to the forefront and just trying to get through this transition together as a community. I think this helps. So I appreciate it.
I have a question. I appreciate both of my colleagues' comments there, because it's never easy to have to vote on these, and especially when it becomes more specific, it's harder. And I guess I'm curious, this is a fairly broad statement, right, that we're going to probably need to do this. Do we have a sense of when we might have some specifics around possible numbers?
I would hope by mid-April to the end of April. A critical area is the classified staffing area, and particularly the assignment of special education paras. We do, however, have a large number of agency personnel in that area. So it would be my hope that eliminating the reliance on the agency staff would help protect our own staff's positions.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the board? You ready? Advisory vote? Sure. Thank you. All right, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you very much. All right, next up, we have the purchase of 3 small buses presented by Brennan Bowman, Executive Director of Finance and Operations.
Good evening, Board of Directors, Superintendent Rumbaugh. I stand before you today to seek approval to purchase 3 new small buses. I brought this before the board in our last board meeting as an informational. Like I said, we're looking to purchase 3 new small buses to replace aging or broken buses that are at the end of life per OSBI depreciation schedule. The purchase price follows OSBI state code, the 2024-25 specifications. In utilizing the state contract, the district meets all bid requirements. Currently, the transportation vehicle fund stands at $1.46 million in balance. This will cost $403,000. I'm asking for the board to recommend the move of the approval of the purchasing of the 3 buses, with a purchase price of $402,842 from the Transportation Vehicle Fund.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the purchase of 3 buses for the purchase price of $402,842 from the Transportation Vehicle Fund as presented.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion?
Is that number, purchase price locked in, or is there a chance that that could go up due to our current climate?
Now, that is the current state negotiated price for those buses.
I feel like we've done the bus purchasing piece a couple of times, but I feel like for the good of the order, it's always helpful to remind people that we can only buy buses for the Transportation Vehicle Fund. So it's not like we're taking from the general fund or, and if we don't use it, we lose it, is my understanding, right?
Yeah, that is correct. We can only buy yellow buses from the Transportation Vehicle Fund. And if we don't follow the depreciation schedule set by OSBI, we do lose funding in future years. So this is one area where it does not pay to save money.
Okay, I have a couple of comments, questions. I seem to recall in one of the prior meetings, we were looking at a surplus property schedule, and there were buses that were on that list. Are these specific one, at least one specifically replace those, or is there some extra additional buses you'll be surplusing when these are available?
So those buses that were on the surplus schedule were on there due to age or inability to repair. And so the buses that we're asking for now are partially to replace those, but it's also not set based on that surplus.
And then second, you mentioned that there's $1.4 million in the transportation fund, and this is gonna take about 400,000 of that. Do you have any other planned yellow bus purchases that would be using that funding in the near term?
I don't have the depreciation schedule in front of me now, but that's the information.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to know, just to understand, how we're gonna be spending that money over the next year or so, or if there is a need.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions from the board? Sue, right? No. And advisory vote from oh, thank you. All right, there's no further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you very much. All right, we're gonna move on to the resolution number 2025-03, transfer of interest earned from capital projects fund to general fund. This is gonna be presented by, Brandon Bowman, Executive Director of Finance and Operations. Hello again.
Hello again. I stand again before you to ask for the adoption of resolution 25-3, the transfer of earned interest from capital projects fund to the general fund. The capital projects fund has accrued significant interest through both direct investment and interest paid via interfund loans. In accordance with RCW 28A.320.320, the Board of Directors of any school district is authorized to designate interest earnings to a fund other than the one in which the interest was generated, provided that the funds are used for instructional supplies, equipment, or capital outlays. To support the strategic objective of building the general fund balance to levels specified in the board policy, the finance team is proposing the permanent transfer of up to $980,000 of earned interest from the capital projects fund to the general fund. This transfer would include interest generated from all interfund loans issued from the June 2023 to the present.
All right, thank you very much. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve resolution number 2025-03, directing the finance team to transfer up to $980,000 from unrestricted capital funds to the general fund. Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion from the board? So, just so I understand this correctly, and I know you went over kind of this process a little bit during the last board meeting. But, we've borrowed from our capital projects fund in the past, and we've paid that off with interest. And that interest came from our general fund. And so, this allows us to be able to take the interest that we paid into the capital projects fund from our general fund and move it back into our general fund. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And is this move, the 980,000, is that because we can, or we're in a place where we need to?
So it is because we can. It is an option available to us, and our neighboring school districts have utilized this option to fortify their general fund. And it's also at a place where we are consistently managing low cash flow. And so this gives us a buffer just in case anything that's unforeseen happens in the month that we're not prepared for. We're also in a valley of low apportionment, so our revenues are lower than they will be at the end of the year. So that's another reason why we're battling cash flow.
Can you remind me, does our capital projects fund accrue interest over time, or only accrue interest if we take out a loan and pay that loan back?
So the fund itself accrues interest at the bank, and it also accrues interest when we pay ourselves that interest. So this resolution is looking to take not only the interest we paid ourselves, but the interest that fund is accrued by itself.
And then my last, I don't want to take all the other board members' questions, but I guess my last statement would be, would it be better, so we can utilize this action at any point in time, right? We're not restricted to this point in time right now to be able to do this. Is that correct?
That is correct, and ideally, I would present this motion during the acceptance and approval of our yearly budget. However, because we are in that state of low apportionment, I'm asking for this now so we can manage anything that comes up in our cash flow.
So, I guess where my thought process is if this accrues interest over time, would it be more beneficial to take this action in a situation where we might need those funds, because then we've given those funds an opportunity to increase in interest, giving us more essentially buying power.
Well, when we transfer this into the general fund, it also accrues interest, same rate that it is sitting in the bank. And what it really does though, is it gives us that flexibility if we need to use those funds. There's some type of emergency. We can still use it for funding capital projects, but we have the flexibility as the school district to use those funds when they sit in the general fund.
Very much. Questions from board members?
So I have a number of questions, although I think you've ticked off at least half of them, so
Glad I
thank
could
you.
help.
Good job. So I think Director Krebs, kind of his line of questioning got to some of my areas of concern, especially since we relied on our capital fund, really to do double duty for us, right? Both to help kind of shore up and smooth out our cash flow, in addition to what we need for capital funds. And I guess for me, it would be helpful just to have some additional information around this as part of this presentation. So I think I remember that we are going to pay back our capital funds loan earlier than anticipated. But that we also have a cash dip that we expect, because June is always hard, right? So it just would be helpful for me to see some of those numbers and where we're at, and to understand how this fits into our plan overall. I also get a little squidgy around our capital fund, in part because we don't necessarily have a whole lot of resources that are replenishing it. I mean, we've got a property transfer in a couple of years, we'll get a little bit of money, but so I just get a little squidgy around moving that money around, even though it's in theory, you know, supplementing our general fund. And then I guess I just have some questions about, you know, the resolution says up to 980K. So it seems like you want discretion to kind of just pull as needed. And then I'm curious if the board then would be informed to be pulled 500 of that amount versus we actually needed the whole amount.
Yeah, so the intent is to go for the maximum amount. It's a daily accruance of interest, so when we do that, it would be a calculated amount up to that date. So I can't give you an exact amount, but we are looking to transfer the maximum amount that we can. And this is, the practice that similar school districts do, and that's how they work.
And then I think you answered this and I kind of just missed it at the end of your presentation. You said that 980K in interest, that was accrued over which period of time? Is that just from our interfund loan transfers, or is that like the whole amount of interest?
So the period of time goes back to June of 2023.
Okay.
And so that's when we started making, taking loans from the capital fund to help the general fund out. So getting that interest back, then also calculating the interest earned since that time, just for the money sitting in the bank. What's also important to realize is we have a board policy to get our fund balance to 5%. And we are not meeting that policy at the moment. And so this is one step to get us towards that strategic goal of having that 5%. Now, like I said, we can use that money or we can have it there as our buffer. But right now, we're not meeting the goal, and the flexibility to use that in capital still exists.
So for me, it would be really helpful to see our fund balances here, and if we did this, it moves us X percentage closer. So I'm not necessarily opposed to the mechanism. I guess for me, I'd like to see a little bit more context in order for the board to make a fully informed decision. So that would be helpful. I think that's a fair argument, right? The board policy is to try to get to 5%. We had our budget plan, our revised budget plan in December. We're looking better, but I guess I would like to, I would like to see what that actually does.
Yeah, for context, without any adjustments, we're looking at a fund balance at the end of the year between 3.5 million and 5 million. So that 5% fund balance for us would be about 10 million. And so at the low end, 3.5 million, having another million on top of that's another 33% towards that goal. But yeah, that's just what we're looking for, is that mechanism is part of an overall strategy to get us to that 5%.
I do agree with Director Michael that I think the ability to use this tool is to our benefit. I just want to make sure that we're using this tool wisely, and I don't necessarily like saying that this tool would benefit us in reaching 5% any fund balance, because that should ultimately that should be what we budget towards annually, and I don't want to have to use this tool annually to support our general fund balance. Ideally, that 5% is achieved through, fiscal responsibility of the general fund balance. And I think we're getting there. So I want to make sure that we're using this almost $1 million at a responsible time. Not saying that we aren't, but I think that Director Michael's point, having a kind of a detailed breakdown of how this would benefit the district in June, or not June, pulling it out sooner rather than later, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think the data that you're looking for is available in the monthly financial reports that I've given you. That does not include this 980,000. So you can see where our fund balance ends up at the end of the year, and you can see how this would benefit us. And what we presented in our fund balance presentation is a best case scenario of 5 to 6 million. And so that's roughly 17%. In addition to that, I think the greatest benefit right now is every month we're looking at our cash flow and exercising our payment terms with our vendors between 30, 45, and 60 days. And it gets pretty low every month until we get our larger portion in here.
So I just have 2 more. So
I've got a lot of
okay
to answer some of these questions.
Okay, so I guess another question I have is how quickly we can access funds. So if we were to pass this resolution tonight or 2 weeks from now, how quickly can we access those funds?
It just requires one transaction of the county treasurer and then its turnaround is 1 day.
Okay, and there's not a pressing need in the next 2 weeks to do this necessarily?
The only pressing need is, the amount of cash that we have in the bank right now, and, it's pretty low.
Okay.
And to give you some perspective, we had this month, we had 40,000 left in the bank. And our monthly expenditures are 15.6 million, so that percentage is kind of low.
It's not a problem.
But we are wiggling.
Just good, these are saying that. And then I guess my kind of last piece here, and it's something we talked about when we were discussing school consolidations. At least, I know I would really appreciate a deep dive into our capital fund, where it's at right now, what we borrowed, when we're paying it back, what we anticipate that we need, because we have some fairly large, we have some things with school consolidation, but we have some needs out there that for our buildings, that I think we need to be mindful of as we are, both relying on our capital funds for cash flow, thinking about moving some funds out. And I'm going to come back to the need to have a discussion about bonds and or levies at some point, because we don't have a reliable resource to replenish those funds. We have a building transfer, that I think is next summer where we get some, but other than that, I think everything else is kind of, nothing is settled. So I know I would really appreciate just some additional kind of deep dive, whether it's a work study or a presentation on our capital funds.
I think it's also important to note that this doesn't impact any of the principal that is in our capital fund, so we are not stealing from any principal. We're just exercising the usage of.
Yeah, I gotcha.
When this topic first came up, and I think it was was it the one on the third or this came up, I admit I was a little dubious about this, and certainly, but I did spend some time looking at it and going over the numbers, and some things, I mean, if you go through and Brandon's right, if you go through the monthly report and you look at those cash flow numbers and those revenue numbers, you see where the real issue is here. It's because of the fact that the way the apportionment money comes in, okay, we have some significant dips in our available cash. Actually, currently right now, and then again in June, which I imagine that right now is probably why you're making the comment that the numbers got pretty low, because they were pretty low. And that's why, if you remember, we wound up making that $3.5 million loan out of the capital fund earlier in December, because we saw those forthcoming. The good news was last December when we did that, we didn't borrow as much money as we had in the past. But the bad news is if there's difficulty controlling the cash flow, if we don't get revenues as quickly as we anticipated, if we wind up having to make payments sooner than we anticipated, we run some risk of running out of cash. In my view, this is a better way of getting us access to that cash cushion than going and making another loan from the capital fund. I would frankly much prefer to do it this way than going out and borrowing another million or two, because I think that sends a really bad message. I think this is a much more common occurrence with the local school districts in terms of how they manage their cash flow. The other good news is looking into this. One thing that had me concerned about was putting an extra almost $1 million in there without really having a great deal of control over what that money could be used for. But just to be clear, this does have once you transfer it into the general fund, it cannot be used the same as the regular general fund. It can be used for, it says here, instructional supplies, equipment, and capital outlays.
Yeah, those are the criteria that we can use it.
Okay, so in other words, it can't be used to, fund additional salaries or hire additional people or those sorts of things, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, and also, we still retain the ability to use that money for capital outlays. We don't, even though it's been transferred into the general fund, if we needed it for, if we, in an emergency, we needed it for capital project, we could put it back, essentially, if we spend it out of the general fund.
Yeah, it gives us that flexibility using capital. We want to use that as well, so I'm not taking it all away.
So I guess I understand the desire to dive into this a little more deeply and look at the numbers, but really, I'm just have a strong feeling this is a better approach than our other alternatives to prepare ourselves for dealing with a possible cash gift of a relatively short duration coming out in the next month.
So I hear that, 110%, and I just want to be clear, like, I'm not necessarily opposed to the mechanism. What I want to see is context in the materials, and so, from my perspective, the action reports are an opportunity to explain both to the board what the thinking is, and it's transparency for the community to understand why we're doing what we're doing. And I don't know that we see that here. You had the opportunity to go back and jump back into last month's financials, which is great, but that should be here. We should, somebody should be able to pick this up and say, oh, I see, we're going to have a cash dip in January, but we're gonna have a cash dip and we're gonna be short, so this is why we need to do this now. And we don't have that here. We should be able to look at this and say, oh, this is what it's gonna do to our capital fund, and this is why it makes sense. And the information exists if you go back and dig into it and find it, but not everybody's gonna have the opportunity to go back and dig into it and find it. And so I think that's, when I say context, that's what I'm talking about. I want to see the context. And it's not that I'm opposed to the mechanism necessarily, I just want to have the context so that we know we're making a really informed decision.
And I guess I would just add that sticking to what we've created where it's an informational or an action item, because we had Superintendent Burgess report on this, but it was never an information. So just having that.
Any other discussion or questions from the board?
Well, I see that we have a special session meeting with budget update scheduled for the 31st. Would that be an appropriate time to take a closer look at this, and you can still act on it then? Like I said, I don't feel like I've gotten enough information. I'm not saying that, you know, what you're presenting there doesn't make sense, but I don't feel like I've given enough time to really look at this, consider it. So it seems like that would be an opportune time to take care of it.
I'm just gonna make that recommendation as well, or we have a study session on the 21st of April. So I do this.
What's the impact of pushing this off until either the 31st of this month or the 21st of April?
So the impact is if we have any unforeseen expenditures, we don't have the cash to pay for those right now.
You said the turnaround time, if we needed it, was fairly quickly.
Yeah, and that we would have to reach out to the board with, this is the emergency we gotta take care of, and take action at that point. But I can't do this without board approval. And so far, so good. We're able to scoot along with our forecast. We're still spending less than we budgeted or estimated monthly. Like I said, we're one emergency away from having an issue.
I personally am in favor of just a 2-week pause with the opportunity to come back to this board with a little more information. I certainly would support that. And I feel like, you know, we'll all keep our fingers crossed, I suppose, for 2 weeks that nothing big happens, but based on what you've told us, it seems like we should be okay for a couple 2 weeks.
And if that weren't the case, we could convene a special session.
You want to propose an amendment? That's let me kick it over to the student rep while you do that. Do you have any comments? You have that, what's your advisory vote for this?
I'm no.
Oh, thank you. All right,
I'll make a motion to move to table resolution number 2025-03, transfer of earned interest from capital projects fund to general fund to the special session on March 31st. Second.
motion and a second, any discussion on that motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you very much. All right. We're gonna get into some follow-up items. As you heard just now, March 31st, special session meeting, budget update, and we will reevaluate action item number 6 during that meeting. And then April 21st, 2025, we have a work study and regular session meeting as well. And that takes us to superintendent comments.
I don't have any further comments at this time.
Very much. And board comments. And we'll start with Director Thomas.
Well, say I appreciate, I very much appreciate the way this board works together to resolve issues. We're a reasonably diverse group with a lot of different opinions on how to address the current situation the district is in. And it's good to see that we're all want the same end here, even if we have different ideas how to get there. So I want to thank you all.
Appreciate it.
First comment deals with the gifts to put the gardens into Allen Creek. I think that's really a cool idea. I know some of our other elementary schools have gardens, and I would like to see somehow if we could look into some way to expand that. I think it's a very non-threatening way to get people into our schools as volunteers. People who wouldn't normally go to a school say, "Oh, I'll plant a garden or pull weeds," or those sort of things. It's a real hands-on and tangible thing that you can see in school. So I would like to see somehow we could few volunteers were to expand that, especially with the greenhouse program out at MP starting up again. It's, as always, it is really great to have our students here before the board meeting to perform for us and to recognize students. There are some students in Marysville though that weren't recognized tonight. I don't want to get them get left by the wayside. So the first one, like mentioned, is Hannah Worth from Marysville Getchell, the daughter of one of our district employees, received a Marysville Boys and Girls Club National Youth of the Year Award. So that's a pretty big deal. So I'd like to recognize her for that. I'd like to recognize Marcus Hoyen, our MP wrestling coach, who won the Snohomish County Wrestling Officials Association Coach of the Year Award. And for Wesco, this is unheard of. Wesco All League, we had, there was 13 positions on Wesco All League, and we had 12 of the 13 positions were to MP wrestlers. I don't know if that's ever happened anywhere in any other district. So that was pretty impressive. And just since for the people that are online, those wrestlers were Javon Henry, Garrett Reeves Turner, Dylan Reeves Turner, Matt Woodall, Braden Childress, Gunnar James, Emily Villa Johnson, Joseph Davis, Danny Vergara, Roger Jones, Charles Shelton, Stephen Morales, and Aiden Eagle. So congratulations to those wrestlers. Which team? There's 14 positions. One of them wasn't filled. I guess they couldn't find a little 106 guy, but everything else, 12 out of the 13. So that's great. So congratulations and continued success to all the kids that are students that are starting spring sports now. I know we've started up with the first games. I think MP baseball's first game is tomorrow. First home game is tomorrow, and I know that Getchell and MP are both at Stanwood on Thursday for their first track meet of the year. So good luck to those. I know there's other things going on, but those are the ones that just kind of pop in my head.
Very much. Michael.
I would echo some of those comments. It's so great to start our meetings, both with the student performances and then obviously recognizing our students. And for me, really fun to see, some of our teachers that were former students, right? That I remember, growing up as seniors and all of that. And then seeing, folks in the community where I think Levi, I remember him as 5 and he's now an 8th grader, which, anyway, time moves faster than we want it to, for sure, but just, I really appreciate those recognitions and getting to acknowledge the work of our students and our staff. And thank you, Craig, for making that note about handwork. My daughter played basketball with her for years and really deserving kid, super, super exciting. And welcome to Dr. Limbaugh for your first really official meeting in your interim superintendent role. We're so very happy to be here.
Hey, Shalom, Yaya. Hello, everybody. Good evening. I would just kind of reflect that the work that Marcus Hoyen has done with that MP wrestling team really went above and beyond. They brought multiple opportunity for camps for these students in a time where, they don't have access to, like getting the headgear and the new equipment that they need. And they just put a lot of work in there. And I'm going to, not be super humble, and I'm going to say Joseph Davis is my nephew and he's a senior. Super proud of him. And also acknowledge publicly here that my brother Sam Davis is, he is not a staff coach, but he is a coach that goes there every single day and works with all of those kids and gives back to the community that way. So I'm just really super proud and I appreciate you saying that. And I want to acknowledge to all these students that came in and spoke today. They had some really good words. I just really appreciated some of their good words and their teachings to us about what helps them to feel comfortable and be successful in school. A lot of them talked about consistency with their teachers, having relationships, building relationships, which I know educators are not strangers to, but I want to call attention to that. I really appreciated Carlos, his words. I don't remember them exactly, but what he wants to be remembered for. I thought, wow, that's pretty profound for a young man, but by hearing and honoring each person that he comes into contact with in high school. And I just think that it's thoughts like that and students like that that are going to help us keep moving forward in this school district. So I just really wanted to call attention to that. And I also want to welcome Dr. Rumbaugh and just acknowledge that as a school director, and I feel like we here in Marysville are lucky to have her in the superintendent role. Now she became available after leaving Stanwood, and the fact that we were able to gain Dr. Rumbaugh's service here in Marysville, I think is lucky for us in the situation that we're in. She's very well qualified, and I'm very excited to be able to be a part of a team with her and help move Marysville forward. And I just want to echo your sentiment, Director Thomas, and just say thank you for saying that, and I feel the same. So,
Thank you very much. Deep breath.
I would also like to acknowledge that I am one of those participants for the Marysville Getchell and the track meet on Thursday. And I'd also like to acknowledge how excited we are as a team and how I've seen the progressive nature of our Getchell team as a track team. Last year was more kind of sort of a trend. This year it is clear that all of our teammates, all of my teammates, and everyone that is there wants to work not only independently to better themselves as a athlete, but also more as a team. Our warm-up is literally like a lap around the track, and then we get together as a team and talk about how we're going to be more encouraged and how we're going to improve amongst ourselves and together. And as far as like PRs, we've already seen a lot of PRs, and everyone's really just really hyped for this meet. So I kind of just want to acknowledge that and touch base on that.
Thank you very much. Well, there's not much that's left to be said. I did attend with Dr. Rumbaugh, meeting at Legacy earlier, I guess later last week. And I do appreciate Dr. Rumbaugh, you setting up a listening session for the families and community members. Legacy, I think that's important. I just want to recognize the amount of talent that was packed into just 4 students at the beginning of the meeting. The amount of music talent. We've been starting off our meetings lately showcasing our students and staff members of the Marysville School District, and something that we haven't done in a while up until recently. And I got to tell you, it's quite eye-opening the amount of work that's going into these students by our teachers and staff members and paras on a daily basis. I think last meeting, there was a choir, and these students only practice once a week. And I think it's during like a 0 hour or after school, and they were amazing. And we've only been in school, for a short amount of months. So a lot of work goes into that. And so I really appreciate the opportunity for me to showcase that to the community. There was something else that I do appreciate the community giving the board a break. Last board meeting, we had 0 public comment. And that was nice. That was like our spring break. So she came ready this time, and as always, we appreciate it. And with that being said, we do have an executive session starting here in 3 minutes. So we will go ahead and adjourn from the regular session at 7:57. And at 8 o'clock, we will open our executive sessions. And I'll read this off here. Notice is hereby given that the Marysville School District Board of Directors will meet for 30 minutes in an executive closed session on Monday, March 17th, 2025, from 8 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. at the Marysville School District offices located at 4220 80th Street Northeast, Marysville 98270. The purpose of this meeting is to consider a quasi-judicial matter. And if we're approaching 8:30 and we need some time, you'll see me coming out here if you're still in attendance. And I will either increase time or we will adjourn from the executive session at 8:30. So if you want to see me again, feel free to stick around for another 30 minutes. I'll be here. All right, thank you very much.
Recording stopped.